You want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. Those defiant words from Kash Patel just exposed the real agenda behind Trump's Justice Department. What you're about to see is Dean systematically dismantling the FBI nominee's credibility, revealing how an enemies list became a blueprint for revenge, and why Patel's own contradictions may have just disqualified him from leading America's premier law enforcement agency.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Meng, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the President's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process, and he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the President sees it, on what the President calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The President calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations. The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the President to go after the President's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges. I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the President is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the President's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the President continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies list on that book.
So
there are people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people,
That's good. You
and they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, You claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times, and you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing
Veracity?
perjury. Tell the American
You
people
didn't
how
know?
I broke the law and committed a felony.
You did
Have the
break-
audacity to actually
No,
put the
all
facts
right, then
forward
the answer is
instead of
both.
lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second
answer
donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
The
men and
answer is
women of
you're
the
failing, not
I
me.
reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say, we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
I thank you. I yield back. Again, this is an unserious moment, sadly, for the FBI. I yield back.
More so for you.
Mr. Strong.
What Representative Dean accomplished in those 4 minutes wasn't just political theater, it was a masterclass in exposing how law enforcement can be perverted into a tool of personal vendetta. When Patel declared, "You want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me," he inadvertently revealed the core problem with his nomination. A man who sees the FBI through the lens of personal grievance cannot be trusted to lead it impartially. Dean's questioning methodically unraveled 3 critical failures that should disqualify any FBI director nominee. First, the enemies list, masquerading as an appendix in Patel's book, isn't just editorial content, it's a targeting mechanism. When the president calls it a brilliant roadmap and blueprint, and when people from that list subsequently face executive orders and investigations, the pattern becomes unmistakable. This isn't coincidence, it's systematic retaliation. The constitutional crisis Dean highlighted runs deeper than most Americans realize. When she mentioned the Wisconsin judge arrested for correctly demanding judicial warrants from ICE, she exposed how the FBI under Patel has already begun targeting the judiciary itself. A functioning democracy doesn't arrest judges for following the law. When law enforcement begins intimidating the courts, you're witnessing the collapse of institutional independence that keeps democracy alive. Patel's evasions under questioning revealed a man either unwilling or unable to provide straight answers about his role in systematic firings of FBI officials. When multiple whistleblowers come forward alleging perjury, and when the nominee can't explain appearing 8 times on an anti-Semitic podcaster's show while claiming unfamiliarity, you're not dealing with memory lapses, you're seeing calculated deception. The budget contradiction Dean exposed illuminates Patel's impossible position. He's asking Congress for $11.2 billion, while his president proposes cutting over $1 billion from the FBI budget. This isn't just fiscal inconsistency, it's evidence of an administration that views the FBI as expendable except when useful for political enforcement. Dean's final question about constitutional duty struck at the heart of the problem. When Patel couldn't affirm that the president should uphold his constitutional obligations, he revealed that loyalty to Trump supersedes loyalty. An FBI director who won't commit to constitutional fidelity is an FBI director who will enforce political will, not legal principle. The institutional damage extends beyond Washington. When career FBI agents see their leadership prioritizing revenge over justice, when they witness judges being arrested for following proper procedures, when they observe investigations launched from enemies' lists, the chilling effect becomes systemic. Professional law enforcement requires institutional trust, and Patel's approach destroys it. What should alarm every American isn't just Patel's particular failings, but what his nomination represents: the transformation of law enforcement from public safety into political weapon. When the FBI becomes indistinguishable from a president's personal enforcement arm, when investigations serve political scores rather than criminal evidence, when judges fear arrest for judicial independence, democracy itself becomes the casualty. Dean's questioning wasn't partisan grandstanding, it was democratic triage, an attempt to preserve institutional independence before it's completely compromised. The fact that Patel couldn't provide clear answers to basic questions about constitutional duty and operational independence should be disqualifying, regardless of political affiliation. The stakes couldn't be higher. Once law enforcement becomes partisan, once investigations serve political rather than criminal purposes, once the justice system prioritizes loyalty over law, restoring institutional integrity becomes exponentially harder. Dean's 4 minutes of questioning may have been America's last chance to prevent that transformation.